Wow, Jason,
Yeah.
I think you dropped the mic.
Yeah. A couple of them.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
So incredible.
No, I can't take credit for it. I mean, all I just did for 45 minutes was plagiarize one book, which is it's called Love and Responsibility by Pope John Paul II. He wrote it when he was a bishop in Poland, and the thing is just unreal. It's the very foundation of our whole ministry is the insights that he has.
Well, I'll be checking that out.
Yeah.
I could talk to you for another 3 hours, but I know you got to go. I do have one question that I'd like to follow up with is, what can people do when, like, I love this analogy you gave of like stuffing all the toys in the closet, and then one day you open it up 5 years later and they all come out. Yeah. I mean, that has to happen to couples. What do you recommend for couples when they hit that point?
You need to get to counseling. And if your spouse is unwilling to go, you need to go, even if you're not the one with the issues. Like, you're going to need counseling to be able to process their unwillingness to have accountability for the trauma that might be going on in the background that's causing so much friction and difficulty in the marriage. But yeah, like I remember a friend of mine once said, your mind is like a bad neighborhood. Don't go in there alone. Meaning, bring some company, find a counselor, find a qualified Christian therapist, and find one. You might have to shop around a little bit. You might not connect with the first one, but like find someone and then go to those places. Go with your spouse. Do the heavy lifting. Because if you've got a disorder going on with your kidney, you don't be like, well, I'm just going to, wish for the best and surround myself with good friends. It's like, no, you might need to be on dialysis right now. Okay. Go deal with that stuff. So, and so a lot of times spiritually we'll go to the pastor for this, and physically we'll go to the doctor for this. But like, what about when it's of the heart, of the mind, of the emotions? Like, we need to find qualified professionals that can really help us get to, like, where's the root of this coming from? Why is she having this controlling thing? Well, maybe it's because she doesn't feel safe. Why is that? Well, I'm a safe guy. Well, this thing happened to her. She never processed it. So she's got some PTSD. And so every time it triggers it, she's going back and reliving all of that trauma in her body. And she doesn't even understand why she's feeling these things, because it's a scary place to go back and dig in. So I would say, yeah, stuff's going to hit the fan, and don't try to process it alone. Find a good counselor and work through those things together as a team.
Incredible. I do want to ask one more question if you got a moment. Yeah. How did you get into this? Like, what was the spark that got you into this weird
I led a lot of high school retreats in college, and the high school kids really opened up to me about all the junk they're going through. And it was heavy stuff, and they had no formation in terms of human love, chastity. At the same time, I was doing 3 years of sidewalk counseling, which is like crisis pregnancy counseling outside of an abortion clinic. So you're talking to women who are having an abortion in like 45 minutes, and you're giving them different options. Hey, we can offer financial support or ultrasounds or prenatals or, whatever you need. We're here to support you and love you and pray for you. And you'd save a baby here and there, but it became very disheartening in the sense I just felt so late. Like, why am I meeting a woman who's having an abortion in 45 minutes? Why couldn't I have met her when she was 15? Because maybe if she learned about chastity then, she never would have dated this creep to begin with and be in this difficult situation today. So I realized everybody's harping on the supply of abortion with legislation and this, that. Nobody's dealing with the demand for abortion, which is unchastity. It's like there's a dam broken a quarter mile upstream, and we're just throwing sandbags on a flooded river. Someone needs to go plug the thing. So I thought, well, that's maybe where I need to focus more on chastity. And so at the same time I was doing the crisis pregnancy stuff and the high school retreats, that's when I discovered the book Love and Responsibility. And I read it and I'm like, this is it. Like, this is the antidote. This is irrefutable because of how beautiful it is. Because you can argue with truth and goodness, but beauty you can't even argue with. It speaks for itself. And so I started just sharing nuggets of that with the young people. And it was like, wow, they thought chastity was like this litany of prohibitions. And now they realize it's this virtue that frees them to love. And it's like, I want that thing. Steve Jobs said people don't know what they want until you show it to them. And then you show them chastity. And it's like, I want that. And so, we've never had a disrespectful audience in 2 million kids because they're starving for this. It's like handing out steaks in Somalia. This is not a hard job. And so that's when I kind of got started. And then I started speaking at high schools, and it snowballed to 100,000 kids a year. And so I've been doing it now for 26 years.
Wow. And it's never too late, right? Jason, isn't that kind of the message of the day too?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, nothing is ever wasted. Sometimes you learn the other side. It's like, oh, that didn't really do much for me. Yeah. And so it makes it even more beautiful
Yeah,
and enticing.
And it's unfortunate because we tried to push the purity movement so much in terms of virginity for a while, and it wasn't the right approach, because what if someone's not, or had it taken from them? If a woman thinks her value comes from her virginity, she's wrong, because like her sexuality has value because of her. She's the gift. This idea that, the most precious thing you could ever give a man is your virginity. No. The most precious thing you give a man is yourself. Okay, that's the gift. That's the best thing you give a guy. And so if a girl thinks that her value is her virginity, then when that's gone, she thinks she's just damaged goods. And so, yeah, it's never too late to start over. Anybody can begin again.
Yeah, beautiful. Whether married, whether single, yeah, I think it's lovely. Well said.
Wow, Jason, I'm definitely going to read that book. Thank you so much for your time. This has been incredible. Thank you.
And it's a hard book. I mean, he's a world-class intellect philosopher. His thesis, the priest in Poland said it needs to be translated from Polish into Polish so we can know what he's talking about. So some parts are pretty dense, but then other parts are just breathtaking. He got a lot of flack because he actually goes into the fact that it's a virtue for a husband in marriage to synchronize his sexual climax with his wife as much as possible. That's an act of virtue on behalf of the man. And it's just like, that was not the way you talked about sex back in the 1960s in Eastern Europe, but he was so in touch with wives and husbands and marriage challenges and the frigidity going on and stuff that wasn't being discussed. But it's really beautiful how he explains that culture of tenderness is what it allows them to experience authentic intimacy in marriage. So it's beautiful stuff. If you want a popularized version, there's a book called Men, Women, and the Mystery of Love by a guy named Dr. Ted Sri that takes the same principles and just makes it a little bit more accessible. So either Love and Responsibility or Men, Women, and the Mystery of Love, both do, cover the same stuff.
Thanks for sharing that, because I was reading Fulton Sheen and I loved his old videos, but gosh, reading him is a little different than listening to him.
No, it is. He's such a poet, and it's a little swimming through that is a little thick sometimes for me too.
Yeah. Well said. Well, I'm gonna cut it here so we can upload and you have your time. This has just been incredible.
Thanks for joining us today. Hey, do us a favor and take a second to subscribe to our podcast and the Utah Marriage Commission YouTube channel at Utah Marriage Commission, where you can watch this and every episode of the show. Be sure to smash the like button, leave a comment, and share this episode with a friend. You can also follow and interact with us on Instagram at Stronger Marriage Life and Facebook at Stronger Marriage. So be sure to share with us which topics you loved or which guests we should have on the show next. If you want even more resources to improve your marriage or relationship connection, visit strongermarriage.org, where you'll find free workshops, e-courses, in-depth webinars, relationship surveys, and more. Each episode of Stronger Marriage Connection is hosted and sponsored by the Utah Marriage Commission at Utah State University. And finally, a big thanks to our producer, Rex Polanis, and the team at Utah State University, and you, our audience. You make this show possible. The opinions, findings, conclusions, and recommendations expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of the Utah Marriage Commission.